Hello everybody and welcome to our Month of Brews episode 2. We are going to be looking at the second deck that we've been brewing up, which is this Paladins deck. Word about this deck, it was actually a suggestion from a viewer. So in this case, we are actually working with things that viewers from Twitch are suggesting, going, hey, you're going to do a deck like this. And this is one of the decks that we brewed up from that. So if you have a suggestion for a card, a theme, an idea that you want to see if we can brew something that's at least reasonably competitive, you know, something that you can take to the ladder and maybe not climb all the way to Masters with it, but at least have some fun and not just completely tank your rating or whatever, then absolutely, feel free to comment below or go onto Twitch when we're streaming, mention it, jump into the Discord, and drop your suggestion there, and we'll absolutely be more than willing to take a look at something and do a brew, and kind of go from there with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and actually look at this deck. This is the Paladins deck, and the entire deck came about because of a recently printed card, the Anointer of the Faithful. So if you don't know what this card is, it is a Paladin with lifesteal. It's a 1/3 for 2 that gives another Paladin in your hand bond, and then whenever you play another Paladin ever, you will put a +1 weapon on that Paladin as long as the Anointer of the Faithful is in play. So the advantage to the Anointer is that it'll help you cast some of your Paladins faster and also make your Paladins a little bit bigger. It has 2 combo potentials going on here, as well as just being a value card. The first combo potential that I came up with for this, and I think other people did too, is that Hero of the People happens, oops, sorry about that, we just dropped it. Hero of the People happens to be a Paladin. So the advantage of this is that you can bond the Hero of the People, possibly casting it cheap or free depending on what else has been in play, which will then allow you to play maybe multiple units in a turn with the Hero of the People so that you can actually get the Hero of the People to be big enough to do something. Alternatively, you can bond something else, play the hero, and help use the hero to cast whatever you're going to bond afterwards. So basically, bond with Hero of the People helps you to cast multiple units in a turn, allowing you to possibly get the hero active before your opponent can use, say, slower removal on it, or maybe when you have a window to get through some faster removal and make this hero able to do something. Because if you've ever played Hero before, you know that this unit quickly is a lightning rod and dies to most removal. The other combo we have with that is the Copperhall Paladin, which is a Paladin that when you play a weapon on it, puts a Justice Sigil into play depleted. Advantage there being you remove a Justice Sigil from your deck, you ramp a little bit, and move yourself into some of the other plays, once again into maybe being able to play multiple units in a turn for the hero, or moving into, say, your 5 drops, or if you're playing them, 6 drops. We aren't playing any in this deck, as you're about to see. So after the Anointer of the Faithful, we just want some other value as well, because we have combo potential and value potential coming out of this Anointer. So some of the value potential we have is like the Crownwatch Paladin. It's a 2/1 with Aegis and Warcry that also happens to be great to go with our Hero of the People. It gives Hero of the People 2 abilities, and it gives one of those being a protective ability, making Hero of the People a little bit more of a sticky unit. That's really, really helpful. The Piercing Grief, not a Paladin, but it works very well with our Hero of the People, and as you're going to see in a moment, with other units. I'm going to show you another thing that we've stuck into this deck in order to just kind of really try to eke out extra value and synergy out of this deck. We're really trying to kind of wring out as much value and synergy as we can out of the deck itself. Vanquish, because Vanquish is removal, you need to be able to kill big things. Specifically, this helps kill things like Sandstorm Titans and other stuff that you might have problem getting through. Just helpful with that. Vara's Favor helps us find our sigils and also helps pop Aegis. So you can pop Aegis so you can maybe use some of your removal later on things. And you pop the Aegis without losing all the value, since you are going to go find a sigil out of your deck for doing it. Helps with things like Champion of Cunning and stuff like that. Here are the people we already talked about. Slay, just because it's probably one of the best slow removal spells in the game right now. Unseen Commando, same thing. It's not a Paladin, but its value being flying for the Hero of the People and giving the other units possibly an additional plus is nice. It's evasive, which helps you get through some extra damage. It's just a really nice thing, because one of the things that Paladins as a tribe lack are evasive abilities. Massive problem with not having any evasive abilities, and also just not having a lot of abilities anyways. pretty much lifesteal is overrepresented, everything else is underrepresented. Crownwatch Paladin and the Throne Guardian are the only two paladins that have an ability other than lifesteal that I can think of right now, that have an ability that can be granted to hero other people other than lifesteal. You have other ones that have different abilities that are interesting to use, but not ultimately what we wanted to do in this deck. It didn't really fit with this deck, but there are other kind of maybe synergies and combos you could get into with, like, say, Order of the Spire and such. So Copperhall Paladin, we already talked about. Deathstrike, because we need some fast removal. Honor of the Fallen is the other spicy piece. So the advantage here is that Piercing Grief obviously works great with Hero of the People, but it also will work great with just about anything else if we really need to rush units in there. And Honor of the Fallen helps so that if we play Paladins out early, we don't have to worry about, well, late game our hero is going to suck, because this allows us to kind of help that hero get big again. It also will allow us to put the Piercing Grief and the Crownwatch Paladin abilities onto things like, for instance, the Oathbreaker, which is our top-end Paladin here. A 4/4 with lifesteal, and whenever it attacks, all your units with lifesteal get +1/+1. They don't have to attack, which is nice, because it means it works with the Piercing Grief, it works with the Unseen Commando, helps pump them up, it works with all the other things in here except the Crownwatch Paladin. But if you Honor the Fallen onto the Crownwatch Paladin, suddenly Crownwatch Paladin has lifesteal, so it can get pumped by the Oathbreaker. Really cool synergies going on there. And then we have the Inquisitor's Blade to give some additional evasion. We used to have 4 of it in the deck, but turns where you would just draw way too many Inquisitor's Blades were really frustrating. So we pushed down the Inquisitor's Blade to 2, bumped up to 4 Slay, bumped up to 3 Oathbreaker. So if you saw us play this on stream at all, that's a change we made. And then the Hammer of Authority. We've had people ask us, why do you have Hammer of Authority in here? Hammer of Authority is not necessarily a good card. It's too slow, not impactful enough, and just not really good enough for most things. However, it does one really cool thing. It gives us a potential window where we can combo the Hero of the People. So, for instance, if you've gotten into that kind of pseudo-ish top deck mode and you're worried your opponent has removal, but you happen to have, say, a Hero and a Crownwatch Paladin in hand, or a Hero and an Honor of the Fallen, what the Hammer of Authority lets you do is set up a turn where you're going to drop the Hammer of Authority. Your opponent can't do anything to it on your turn, so, you could swing into your opponent, not have to worry about them having removal for it or whatever, and then on their turn, they're either going to have to tap out and deal with the Hammer of Authority, hopefully opening up the window you need, or they're going to play units to try to deal with Hammer of Authority, giving you on your turn the window to drop the Hero of the People and kind of get your combo synergies off, stealing the momentum. So it's really just a momentum getter, and whether it works well or not, I don't know. It has worked well for us, but it's also, we only have 2 of them, and it's maybe not the best answer, but we don't have a lot of good answers in these colors. The possible option you could do is put Protect in here in place of Hammer of Authority, but the thing is, Hammer of Authority also doubles over as a removal spell potentially. It can pick up some Aegis or some Warcry from the Crownwatch Paladin, and it can also just kind of help get rid of some smaller, more annoying units if you're against, like, say, a bit more of an aggro deck. So it fills a role that Protect doesn't. And then the other advantage it has over Protect is that you'll play Hammer of Authority on this turn, and then next turn you'll try to combo off, whereas with Protect, you have to have it ready the turn you try to run the Hero of the People, so it slows you down by maybe more than a turn because you need to have 2 additional power, whereas with 5, you're talking about Hammer Authority this turn, and then next turn, if you've got 5, you can go Hero of the People, Piercing Grief, or Hero of the People, Crownwatch Paladin, and you don't have to have any additional sigils or any additional power in order to be able to do those kind of effects. And it also, like I said, makes your opponent have to play slow things on their turn, meaning that on your turn you can try to build your board back up and steal that momentum back again. Maybe even doing things like, well, I've got some units out there, so I'm going to drop the Hammer of Authority, and then drop an Unseen Commando, swing in, and then they can't kill the Unseen Commando on your turn. So once again, you get some kind of advantage out of doing those things. And this is the Paladin deck. The sigil base or the power base is pretty easy. We've got some Justice Sigils. We have the 4 Emerald Waystones just to help us with some life gain against aggro stuff because, they were basically free for us to play in this deck. We have the 4 Shadow Sigils so that we can find things with Vara's favor. 2 Amethyst Waystones just because a little bit of Nightfall is useful, but we can't afford to play too many of them because we do need to be able to find stuff with the Vara's favor. And then also, by the way, the Justice Sigils are for the Copperhall Paladins. We're not going to typically find a lot of the Justice Sigils, just because you don't put a lot of weapons on the Copperhall Paladin, but being able to find one or two is really useful. And then we have the 4 Argenport banners, the 4 Crest of Vengeance. You'll notice that we are not running the seats. It's because we aren't running enough actual sigils to make the seats worth it. And then 4 Common Cause, because, I mean, we run so many Paladins, we're typically going to be able to get Common Cause on whatever color we want. And that is the Paladins deck. So let's get to some games. Okay, game number 1 with Paladins. We are against Silken, not a person I know, but hey, whatever. And we will... this is difficult. We do have a scout, which is kind of useful. We have 2 of our heroes, which is also useful. If we find any other paladins to follow up, that could be good. We have a little bit of removal. This is definitely a slow hand, but I think because of what we're sitting on, this is kind of worth it. So let's see what we can do here. We're a little draw dependent, but we're typically going to be kind of draw dependent with this deck. Okay, so our opponent scouts to the bottom. Sorry about that. We will play a Crest of Vengeance, and we will scout, and we will also scout to the bottom. Pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws a card. Opponent plays a Shadow Sigil, and then a Strategize. So they're going to draw 2, toss 1 to the bottom. And then they're going to pass back to us because they have nothing else they can do. Looks like we were playing against the Feln mid-range Champion of Chaos deck that we've seen so much of. Here we are going to go ahead and drop the Argenport banner while we can. Pass the turn back to our opponent. We're going to need to get some value out of this Piercing Grief, so we're probably going to wait a little while to play it. We might bait out a removal with our... okay, nothing. Oh, no, there's our Deathstrike. I forgot we did have a Deathstrike. So never mind, that card is not typically played in the normal mid-rangey Feln deck, so this might be an actual Feln attempt at Feln control, which will be fun to see. We're going to go ahead and play out the Common Cause, drop a, I guess we'll call it Shadow, it doesn't really matter at this point, we have all of our colors, play a Hero of the People, pass the turn, and then we're going to see what our opponent does. If he doesn't kill this, then we can go ahead and play the Piercing Grief this turn. If he does kill it, then cool, we pulled something. Unfortunately, that's not the removal we wanted to pull because that's kind of free removal for him, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and play out this Justice Sigil, pass the turn to our opponent because we can just wait till next turn to get the hero down. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Shadow Sigil, and hopefully not a Champion of... Oh, nope, there's the Champion of Cunning. Well, good news is they played it in kind of a bad situation, so we're going to be able to go ahead and drop this and play the Slay, kill the Champion here, and then we're going to pass the turn back to our opponent. Now, we did get a much better play with our hero. Now we're going to be able to play the hero and the Crownwatch Paladin, protecting the hero, meaning we're going to kind of force our opponent... Oh, opponent with Rain of Frogs, wrecked! Oh, wow, okay, Opponent took an odd card. I'm not sure why they took the card they took. That's very interesting. We're going to play the Emerald Waystone. I guess they have maybe double... What is it called? Wow, the words have just left me. The flyer that deals 1 to everything. The 4/6 that deals 1 and drains... Oh yeah, no, this is some kind of weird version of Feln. Yeah, Black Sky Harbinger, there it is. So yeah, they do have the Black Sky Harbinger. That's unfortunate for us, but it's not too terribly bad. In this case, we are in a bit of a bad situation. We have the Honor of the Fallen, but that's not going to help us out at all. We're going to play the Shadow Sigil, and I guess we just pass the turn, and we're going to get wrecked here by that, by the frogs. Wrecked by frogs, guys. So, if you're seeing a lot of this, just go ahead and play aggro because that's going to lose hardcore to it. So that's interesting. Well, we are going to scout, see if we can find anything, and we found an unseen Commando. That is not going to win us anything. We need removal. If we don't find removal, we're just going to lose here. And opponent swings at the Black Sky Harbinger. We've got, luckily, plenty of turns. They're not really doing anything but swing with us Harbinger. So I was wrong. It is just the Feln mid-range deck. And we're going to move on to, Common Cause. Not what we need. Pass the turn again. Hopefully we find something that's not a Sigil. Opponent swings again. If they don't get their Champion of Cunnings down to start pumping this, we're going to be okay. Opponent... Okay, well, that's not what we need. Pass the turn. We'll hold on to that in case they do get the Champion of Cunnings down with the sigils going. Opponent draws 3 on our turn. Opponent draws 3 more on our turn. Or 2 more, I'm sorry. 2 and 2. Pays 3, draws 2. Wow, I am just all over the place today. And opponent plays a Primal Sigil and swings. We are quickly losing the point where we are going to be able to do anything here. Another Black Sky Harbinger means that if we don't draw removal now, we are out of this game. We did not draw removal, so we are out of this game. And that's going to be it, guys. Unfortunate turn 1 against Feln mid-range. And here we are with game 2 with Paladins, and this looks like a reasonably keepable hand. It's, let's see, is this a little bit on the greedy side? It needs to draw sigils. We have ways to draw sigils. We will attempt to keep this one, mostly because we have a lot of our early plays in hand, so we can present some pressure. We'll see what kind of happens going forward here. There's the Copperhall Paladin, so that's going to be pretty good. We'll play this out. We'll drop the Anointer of the Faithful, go ahead and bond the Copperhall Paladin, pass the turn to our opponent. If we draw Sigil here, we'll be able to play the Copperhall Paladin right off, which will ramp us forward into the Hammer pretty quickly, but if not, then we're going to be in a little bit of a rough state. We will be able to play the Anointer of the Faithful, though, instead. Okay, it looks like we're against dinosaurs. That's going to be interesting. Well, we didn't get it, so let's go ahead and play an Anointer of the Faithful. This time, we will bond the Crownwatch Paladin, which will let us play out the Crownwatch Paladin and then the Anointer of the Faithful. So we'll play the Crownwatch Paladin, exhaust this one. This is going to put 2 weapons on the Crownwatch Paladin, which will then let us... Oh, we don't have the double justice. Never mind. I forgot about the influence cost. Might as well swing. So we still need to draw the justice, unfortunately. We're in a bit of a rough state here, but we'll hopefully find something. Our opponent plays out a time sigil. I'm expecting this one actually to be locked down under a permafrost. Opponent, thinking hard, plays a Sauropod Wrangler. Ooh, this is going to get bad for us quick. This is going to get very bad very fast. We desperately need that Justice Sigil. Any Justice source, even if it's depleted, will help us here. It'll put us back on track, which is going to be a good thing. If we swing with the Paladin, they might block. Ah, there's the Common Cause. Okay, Common Cause gets us out of this decently well. So here we're going to be able to play out the Anointer of the Faithful. Then we're going to bond, it doesn't matter. We're going to go ahead and play out the Copperhall Paladin using this Anointer of the Faithful as our target, which is going to allow us to put 3 weapons, putting 3 sigils into play, which is going to very quickly ramp us up to kind of where we need to be. At this point, we're going to swing with both and see if my opponent is wanting to block either of them. He can double block this, which will allow us to kill the Evelina. He can double block this, which will kill it, but allow us to kill both. So let's see what the opponent wants to do. He just takes it. Probably means he's got some decent dinosaurs in hand. Pass the turn to our opponent, and he wants to keep pumping with the Evelina. And then didn't want to just throw away the Sauropod Wrangler because of the discount. So we're probably looking at some pretty hefty dinosaurs coming our way. But this is kind of the synergy aspect I was talking about with this deck. We're going to be gaining a lot of life. We're going to be able to play the hammer and maybe kill something. If nothing else, we'll kill the Evelina. So we'll see where this goes. The opponent uses a second sight. That is very good for us, because if the opponent is not putting more pressure on the board, we'll be able to take out the Evelina and swing with everything next turn. And that's going to be really nice. We haven't seen any echo. At least I didn't remember us seeing any echo, so we might be in a really good position here. The opponent is deep in the tank over this second sight, so it probably means they didn't find the sigil they were looking for. And the answer is they did not, so they just scoop it up. There we go. There's the value. So this is kind of the living the dream of Paladin's value, is just... Okay, here we are into game 3 against Void Ball. Good luck, sir. Okay, in our situation, we are not keeping this. This is exceptionally slow for us, and we don't really have a lot of payoff. We do have, well, no, we don't really have a lot of payoff. We have the control, but we do need to draw the sigils, and our sigils are slow. It's not really doing what we want this deck to do. This one, however, is a little bit better. Still slow, but we will be able to get the Hero of the People down. bonded and get an Anointer down and maybe do something here. So we're going to play out the Argenport banner, pass the turn to the opponent. Opponent will play out a Seat of Mystery. Okay, play a Piercing Grief. Is this one of the random Mocto piles? The Mocto Echo piles? It might be. So, pass back to us. We get a Justice Sigil. We will then play out the Common Cause for Shadow. Play out the Anointer of the Faithful. Go ahead and bond the Hero of the People. Pass the turn to our opponent. This means that we will be able to get this down on 4 unless we find another Paladin, in which case we might be able to get it down even faster. Opponent does the Seek Power and gets what? Plays a Time Sigil, and turn comes back to us. So let's go ahead on our turn, play out the Justice Sigil, swing for 1 on our opponent, and pass the turn back again. And next turn next turn we'll be able to Hero the People with the Piercing Grief so that we can charge in for a significant amount of damage. In this case, we're going to charge in for 8, which is going to be nice. 8 with some resilient units is a generally good place to be against one of these random Mocto pile decks. Okay, the opponent draws, scouts, does nothing. So on our turn, we are going to play the Shadow Sigil. We will bond the Hero of the People out. Then we'll play the Piercing Grief, which will go ahead and give the Hero of the People all the abilities. Swing in, like I said, for 8. And that's where we're kind of sitting with this deck. If the opponent decides to kill the Hero of the People, that's fine, because hopefully we'll get it back again. We have some removal, and we're just going to kind of keep swinging in. Keep applying that pressure, hopefully before they get too far in. Ancient Lore, okay, they're not applying a lot of pressure to us, which is good. They're pretty much killing none of our stuff. We're going to go ahead and play the Common Cause. So this is what I was talking about with the Hammer of Authority. So now the opponent is going to have to use the removal on their turn, not our turn, which is going to give us a lot of momentum here and slow the opponent down quite a bit. So they're going to have to decide between using removal, playing their units. They can't hold everything up and try to get us. Like, they're going to have to show their hand early. And the Mocto decks don't tend to have a lot of ways of dealing with the 4/4 hammer. Okay, the opponent with the Harsh Rule. That's fine. That puts the hero back into here. Amethyst Waystone. We will go ahead and play the Amethyst Waystone, swing in for 4 more. Our opponent's going to go to 5, and then on their turn, the Nightfall is going to take them to 4. They didn't get the Piercing Grief for free. They might get another Piercing Grief, but we're okay with that. Scheme to look at the top 4. Now they'll probably find it. There we go. I was going to say, I'd be really surprised if they didn't find it at this point. So our hammer is down because we're going to lose it to the Nightfall. We lose it to that anyways. And what happens now? If we get the hero back, we're going to be in a really good position here. We did not get the hero back. We did get a Deathstrike. That's kind of good. We're going to go ahead and play the Emerald Waystone and use the slow removal on the Stone Powder. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Hopefully we get something. The opponent draws. Didn't get the Stone Powder, which is good. Opponent plays a Time Sigil. I'm expecting... Oh, no, okay. I was expecting some Echo here, but they didn't get the Echo. We'll go ahead and kill the Mocto on our turn in case we draw anything that's worth it. And no, we just get a Crest of Vengeance. We'll go ahead and scout the top, see what's coming up. It is the Piercing Grief, so we'll leave him on top. Pass the turn to our opponent. We like that the Piercing Grief is there because the... Oh, there we go. The Honor of the Fallen is going to be coming out sometime soon. So Piercing Grief hits the field. Anointer of the Faithful in the hand. We will go ahead and vanquish the Mocto. Swing in for 3. Take our opponent down to 6. Pass the turn. I think we'll want to hold on to this Anointer of the Faithful in case we draw a Paladin so that we can bond it. Maybe get some value out of it. The other advantage here is if we get a 4-drop, we can give all of the abilities, including the Charge, Lifesteal, and Revenge, over to that unit, which is going to be nice. Piercing Grief. Comes in hot for 3. That is a slay, not doing it. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Ultimately, I think the... Let's see, what would the best thing be? Opponent gets us for 2. Opponent also gets the Mocto. That's unfortunate, but it happens. Opponent gets another Mocto. Super unfortunate. Okay, so opponent got really lucky pulling into 3 of their revenge cards right off the top. Ooh, Dark returns the Piercing Grief back. Looks like we're going to be out of luck here, even without the Echo. So our opponent probably is going to pull this one. What could we get that would get us back in this game? Not a lot. We need that Hero of the People, but that's not really going to bring us back in. We have nothing we can drop on it. Let's see. If we got a Hero of the People... Nope. We're going to play the Sigil. What can we do here? We can... Is playing the Anointer even worth it at this point? Maybe. Let's think. The Hero's going to be coming somewhere in this deck. He's got to be coming up soon. This is going to be 11 in the air. Let's go ahead and kill off the 4/3. Play the Anointer, even though we're not going to get the bond value, because at this point, we can play anything in our deck, and then also play the Honor the Fallen. So we're going to go ahead and just go that route and see what happens. Best thing for us would be Hero of the People, no blocks, Hero of the People off the top, followed by a, well, there's a Slay, so it doesn't matter. Still Hero of the People off the top is going to be our best pull here, but we pretty much have lost this game, unfortunately. The super lucky triple revenge off the top, followed by us getting Sigil flooded, is definitely not going to be a way to win this one. Our opponent got value that we didn't, and that's going to be probably the end of this game. We'll stick it out and see if we can get anything, but I just can't see anything really getting us out of this. Well, there's the Hero. Crownwatch Paladin, that's kind of what we were looking for. Hero, Crownwatch. Are there any other abilities we can give? I don't think there are any other abilities we can give here that are going to help us out. If we swing with the Hero, I don't think it'll reset the Revenge. It'll kill the Mocto. We'll gain 5. We need to do that. I don't think it resets the Revenge at all. Aegis, Charge, Lifesteal, Warcry, Bond, Destiny. Yeah, we needed to find some flying, which we didn't find. Well, we've got to swing with it. So let's go ahead and attack. The best thing would have been if the Anointer of the Faithful had stayed out. Because if the Anointer stayed out, this would have been a 6/6. And then we would have been able to really do something. But we didn't find it. We're going to keep this in case we happen to get lucky and draw another Hero of the People. Because then it'll get all the abilities off of this Hero of the People. We did not. We did get a Slay. So we'll Slay and we'll swing. Well, maybe. Oh, opponent's just going to Devour. That's fine. They may actually get lucky into another Mocto. They did. There we go. Well, they luck-sacked. In fact, into the Mocto we just killed. Into the 6/6 Mocto and the 5/5 that we just killed. So, revenge to the very top of the deck, which is unfortunate. But we still need to swing in just in case, because that way we can give the abilities. Okay, and then game is just done. Because it was done anyways when they pulled them. So that's unfortunate. Unfortunate for us. Well, I mean... Okay, here we are with Game 4 against Twist. And this is a... Well, this is a keepable hand. It is one Sigil... It is specifically one Justice Sigil away from... One Justice Source away from being able to go off. We did not pull the Justice Source. Let's go ahead and play the Shadow Sigil, pass the turn. If we get a non-Waystone Justice Source, that's better to play, but if we don't, we don't. It's not a big deal. The opponent, Champion of Fury, okay. And didn't get it with the double red, so they couldn't swing that turn. We'll go ahead and play the Emerald Waystone, drop the Anointer of the Faithful, use it on the Copperhall Paladin, pass the turn and hope that this survives, or if it doesn't, maybe my opponent will play the Fire Sigil. There's the Torch. Maybe the opponent plays the Fire Sigil and we can vanquish this? Nope, that didn't happen either. We're just not in a really good position here. Maybe they play something with 1 on the back end and we can get some value. Not expecting a lot here. Hoping, but not expecting. Well, we pull a Shadow Sigil. Not what we really wanted to see. We will play out the Shadow Sigil. And because we need to make sure that we can Deathstrike on the next turn, we'll go ahead and use the Varas now, just to guarantee that we'll be able to Deathstrike on time in case we don't pull anything else of value. The opponent plays another Champion of Fury. Doesn't have the fire though still, so we're getting a little bit lucky there. We can play the Shadow Sigil. Now we're in an interesting situation, because here what we could do is go back and pick up the Anointer of the Faithful, which would be a 2-3 or 2-4 if we did that. I think instead we'll just pass the turn and see what happens. Probably what's going to end up happening is a Fire Sigil. There we go. Okay, so a Fire Sigil is going to hit the field. That's not great for us, but it's okay because we'll be able to do a number of things. No. Opponent found a Justice Sigil? That confuses me greatly. I don't understand what my opponent is playing then. This seems like a very greedy deck on my opponent's part. And I don't know what they're doing. It's thoroughly confusing. But yeah, okay. They're going to swing in for 3. Seems okay for me. Common Cause. Here we're going to go ahead and do this. Dark Return. Does my opponent have a counter spell? What do they have? Are they going to be negating something? My opponent is deep in the tank repeatedly on me casting things. And I am deeply confused by whatever it is my opponent is doing. Okay, Anointer of the Faithful is going to come down. Then we're going to go ahead and play the Common Cause to find the Justice. Play the Anointer of the Faithful. We already have this guy bonded. We'll bond him again. It really doesn't matter. Play him out now. He'll come down as a 4-5 and get us a Sigil. And there we go. And pass the turn to our opponent. So now we have the ability to play out the Hammer. We have the ability to play the Deathstrike. Our opponent uses a Vanquish. That's fine. We got value. Opponent swings. Also fine. Let's go ahead and scout the top. See what we have coming up. Another Copperhall Paladin. Nice. So we're going to go ahead on our turn. Hammer of Authority. We will take out the Yeti. And then we'll swing for 2. Taking us up to 16. Pass the turn to our opponent. If they have a torch or something, they'll use it. Not something I'm super afraid of, though. Our Anointer is torch proof, so they're going to torch us. No, they're going to torch our Anointer, and then, oh, Rock Slide to get rid of both. Okay, that's fine. That's an acceptable line. We will go ahead and play the Copperhall Paladin, pass the turn back, see if we get one of our blades. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Inquisitor's blade, thank you. I was going to say Mocto blade, but it's not a Mocto blade. It's an Inquisitor blade. Opponent. Ooh, okay, so we could bring back the Anointer of the Faithful again. That wouldn't be a terrible play for us. Let's swing, see what our opponent does. We also can just sit on this because our opponent's not doing anything scary. Like, our opponent's Sigil base is really odd and also not scary. Let's go ahead and pass the turn and see what happens. Opponent swings. We'll go ahead and kill this now because we don't really want the opponent to gain a lot of life. We want to be the ones gaining life, not our opponent. Opponent just gives it to us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and swing with the 3-4, see what our opponent does. Play the Dark Return, get back the Anointer of the Faithful, play the Anointer of the Faithful, bond the Copperhall Paladin, play the Copperhall... Oh, I meant to bond it, but that's okay. I accidentally clicked on the board instead. Easy to misclick, unfortunately. And the opponent just gives it up. They can't... Their Sigil base was a little too greedy, and they just couldn't really do much. Yeah, that value. So there's some more Paladin value. And here we are with Game 5, our last game with the Paladins deck. We're 2-2 currently, so we're not doing terrible. We're not doing amazing. We're also not doing terrible. We're probably going to keep this. We have the Vara's Favor to find another Shadow. We do need another Justice, which is kind of a common theme today, but we do have a Scout as well. So we're going to get to Scout, see if we find what we need, either a Paladin or a Justice Sigil. We got a Justice Sigil, so we're going to keep that on top, pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent will play out a Fire Sigil and play out a Ticking Grenadin. So we're going to go ahead and get some value here by playing out the Emerald Waystone. Play the Vara on the Ticking Grenadin. Just take it out, take our 3, not really worry too much about that. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent will draw. Opponent plays a Shadow Sigil. Okay, so we're facing... Okay, interesting. Unexpected. So some Grenadin deck. We'll see what happens here. We will play out the Sigil. I don't really want to play the Anointer of the Faithful right now, so we're going to pass the turn back to our opponent. We're not super worried about what they're doing yet. Opponent will play out a Fire Sigil. Play a Scrap Hound. And swing for 2. Seems good from the opponent. On our turn, oh, there we go. We will, let's go ahead and play out this Justice Sigil. Play out the Anointer, So kill, yeah, we'll play out the Anointer of the Faithful, bond the Oathbreaker. Pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent is probably going to kill this with a torch. No, opponent draws a card. Maybe combust. Opponent maybe has no removal. We'll see. Opponent plays a Shadow Sigil. Opponent's deep in the tank over this play. Opponent... I'm not sure what the opponent is doing. Opponent suffocates. Okay, that was a difficult line for them to decide on for some reason. Opponent will swing. Good idea. And plays nothing else. Okay. At this point, we actually have a pretty decent line here. We can play the Amethyst Waystone, bring back the Anointer. So that'll put us to 5. That'll put us to 4. That'll put us to 2. The Anointer will be on 2, which was not quite enough to bring the Oathbreaker back out. So instead, what we can do is Amethyst Waystone for sure. We know that one's going to go out. We can, if we play the Hammer of Authority, we hit the Disassembler, but the Disassembler will then hit us for 1. So that's not the best line for us to take. We could just play out the Oathbreaker, but it'll die to just general removal. We could also... We could also Dark Return the Anointer of the Faithful, hold up the Deathstrike. That's probably going to be the line to take. It is telegraphing quite a bit because we're not playing the Anointer here, but I'm actually willing to do that and see what our opponent does. Our opponent will... I mean, we are heavily telegraphing the Deathstrike here. Opponent plays a Fire Sigil. Opponent reads his Scrap Hound. Opponent Beast Collars the Scrap Hound. Okay, swings in. We'll go ahead and Deathstrike the Scrap Hound. Get a 2-for-1. I'm happy with this. Opponent might devour the Scrap Hound. Yes, opponent devours the Scrap Hound, so that's fine. We got good value. I am quite happy with this. Take 1. Now the opponent is tapped out, so now we have the situation where the Hammer of Authority is actually a decent play, and we get extra value here. Hammer of Authority, Emerald Waystone, swing at the Disassembler. We go down to 2 on the Hammer, pass the turn to our opponent. So hopefully we'll be able to get another piece of removal out of this Hammer. Opponent will Vara's us. Hammer goes down to 1. And Vara's again? Or just taking us to 1 and not... Okay, and then Slumbering Stone. Interesting choice. Okay, at this point, we can drop the Anointer. Drop the Crownwatch Paladin. So that's 2, 4. This goes up to a 3. And then we can play out the Oathbreaker. So I think that's what we're going to do. Anointer of the Faithful. Bonds the Crownwatch Paladin. Crownwatch Paladin. Played for free. Which will then allow us to play the Oathbreaker for... actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we have a slightly better play. We will kill the Gargoyle. We will Inquisitor's Blade the Crownwatch Paladin. And then we can wait on the Oathbreaker. So now we can actually block successfully, and we have an Aegis. So unless they have a pump spell, we're fine here. Oh, Nightfall. Nightfall's going to kill our hammer. That's unfortunate, but we're not really that upset by it. Opponent charters. Opponent scouts to the top. Opponent breaks the charter. Draws 2. So they drew whatever they scouted. They really wanted that card. We're going to draw 2. We're going to lose our hammer, but we are going to draw 2. So we're not in a terrible spot here. Excellent. And, oh, that's a really good draw. We have nothing to get back right now, but we can do some interesting things here. So if we just swing out, we have Vara's Favor. We have the Oathbreaker. Let's swing out, see what the opponent does. Because we can just cast the Oathbreaker even after using the Vara's Favor if we need to. Opponent just allows us to gain some life. We can play the Oathbreaker and pass the turn to our opponent. So we now have a 5/5 Oathbreaker. Opponent with 5 cards on 19. Opponent with a Ticking Grenadin. Opponent with a Seat of Chaos. Expecting a Combust on the Oathbreaker. Smart play. Opponent with a Topple Tower. Interesting. Opponent chooses to swing. Also interesting. Excellent. Okay, so now for our situation, we can... Dark Return. Bring back the Oathbreaker. Crownwatch Paladin. Crownwatch Paladin becomes a 4/3. Oathbreaker, the Crownwatch Paladin. Oathbreaker becomes a 6/6. Swing with our 6/3 in the air, and we still have a Vara's if we need it. Pass the turn to our opponent. We don't really care too much about Topple Tower. We are going to be able to outrun the damage. Opponent does what? See, this is where the Crownwatch not having lifesteal is a bit of a problem. Okay, we lose our Oathbreaker again. Our opponent swings in for 8, but has no cards in hand. We have 6, 12. Oh yeah, we just win if we don't block. So pass the... Don't block. Opponent has nothing. That was an odd swing. We can Vanquish just for the fact that we can. Vara's, just to make sure. Swing with everything, and that's game. I'm presuming the opponent just didn't realize that we would have had it, mostly because we only had 12 in play. Hey, look at that. We bonded 100 times. And so, guys, that was Paladins. Interesting deck. That's our 5th game. We went 3-2. Okay, so that was Paladins. We went 3-2 with the deck. Let's go ahead and look at the deck one more time, and we can kind of talk about some of the stuff that went on. So Hammer of Authority was decent. It didn't quite get to the... We don't know if it stopped our opponents from doing things on our turn, things like the Devours, stuff like that. We do know that it did get us some value, taking out multiple creatures and eating up removal spells that could have been pointed at our units instead. The Dark Return, super useful on the Anointer, getting that extra value out of that. The Anointer itself, super useful, as you saw in the games where we won. Games where we won typically were won on the back of Anointer of the Faithful, really getting us a lot of value. So for Paladins, I'm a fan of the Anointer of the Faithful and the value that it gets us. The problem is, Anointer doesn't have good partners. Paladins just lack abilities, and hopefully we'll see in maybe the next coming up sets that the Paladins get a little bit better than where they are right now, because as a tribe, they're kind of not very tribal. They all do kind of the same thing, and so you end up just going, well, let's just take the best one for it. Or you have situations like the Crownwatch Paladin where it doesn't really feel like a Paladin because it doesn't do what all the other Paladins do, and you typically never play it alongside other Paladins. You usually are just playing it in, budget Rakano, or not budget Rakano, but just value Rakano aggro style decks. And so it's kind of one of those interesting situations. The deck is in an interesting place where when you get the value, it works really well. It suffers from the same thing that a lot of decks do. It doesn't have the card draw necessary to really push it into the later game. So you can get into these really awkward things where you get your removal but not your units but not your removal, and so on and so forth. It probably wants to be running a few more units, but there just aren't good paladins to put into the deck. Like, they just aren't there really. So maybe we could take out the Honor of the Fallen and find something, but like there's just not. I mean, the best 4-drop Paladin is this Copperhall Paladin. We have another 5-drop Paladin in the Throne Warden, but Throne Warden is just kind of so-so for the deck. We just really need a Paladin that does something. Maybe another one with Warcry, or maybe one that has Quick Draw. Maybe something that has, I mean, honestly, a Paladin with Endurance would be good and would be kind of thematic with Paladins being like, you know, we are the defense of the realm kind of situation with their big armor and stuff. But just something to fill in kind of the 4/5 area. Some big Paladin that really ties everything together. Something like that is kind of what the deck is missing. And then, of course, card draw, but a lot of decks are missing card draw. That's just kind of the situation that some of these decks get into, which is why we see so many of the decks running the same kind of colors, because, you know, card draw is not hard to come by, but it's kind of frustrating to come by if you're not in the right colors for it. So that was Paladins. Paladins is a fun deck. It's got the advantage over Argenport that it has is a lot more synergy and the ability to really get those go wide value hands where your opponents just kind of can't respond to it. The downside from other Argenport is that it just isn't always as powerful. Tavrod is much more powerful than just about anything that this deck is doing. In this, it does the same kind of thing, but faster, so therefore more powerful. And it does it kind of as a self-contained card, whereas with this deck, you're going to need to get the Anointer down and the Oathbreaker, or the Anointer and the Hero, and then some other things. So you're going to have to really Voltron it up to get even close to the same value that just playing and swinging with Tavrod gets you. And then also the fact that we don't have a lot of room for some of the weapons that we might want to run. You could possibly cut some of, like, maybe cut the Honor of the Fallens in order to run maybe a few more weapons or something. Maybe cut some of the removal to do the same thing. It just kind of, I don't know, the deck is in a really weird situation where it is a good deck, but it really needs kind of sideboard stuff to mod over into being what it needs to face the deck that it's facing. Because it's got the tools, but you just don't have the room to put all the tools in the deck at one time. And that's Paladins, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back again later with another one of our brews for the month of brews. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.